What are people saying in Winnipeg about Bitcoin? And what are they saying about you? What are they asking you?
Well, they're certainly asking me. I certainly get a lot of inquiries, and it's something that I didn't think I would field as many phone calls or texts on my phone or emails about, but it's been ramping up lately, obviously, and which brings us back to the old, what do I tell clients? Well, I tell them, one, this is extremely speculative. Obviously, everyone who comes on this show says that. Everyone who's got any kind of background in economics, I think, would say that. I tell them, I strongly encourage them not to participate, to stay away. And then I also monitor on my own side. I monitor a couple tests just to keep track of how bubbly I think we are and how close we are to the end.
What if they are insistent? What would you say to somebody who's insistent they want some Bitcoin in their portfolio? How much what kind of weighting would you reluctantly advise them to take on at $17,000 Bitcoin?
I actually would refuse to do it. I'd refuse to participate in any way, and I would go on record saying that I'm not going to advise you to do that. And I would if they're going to do it elsewhere or on their own or whatever, I'll strongly advise them. It's got to be speculative. It's got to be less than 5% of your portfolio at the absolute most. And it's got to be money you could lose, because this is like going to the roulette table and there's no number that wins. You're taking your $15,000, $17,000, you're putting it on a number that isn't on the wheel, in my view. So I feel that strongly about it. And one thing I monitor, Paul, is I monitor a couple tests that I've kind of created over time. And one is the client inquiry test. So how many inquiries am I getting per day on my phone, on my email, people reaching out to me to tell me, hey, I want to buy Bitcoin. And what I've seen is it's very similar to the curve of the price of Bitcoin. So now I'm getting multiple asks per day, and I track them, and I keep tabs of how many people are texting me per day, how many random people in the street. Everyone's always heard about the taxi driver who asks you about a stock tip. You should stay away from that stock. You should sell it. Well, the same thing with Bitcoin. Now, how many people are asking me? And I still think, though, for what it's worth, that there's a little bit of room here in the Bitcoin yet.
People want in because obviously they see it as a high growth potential asset. If you're steering them away from Bitcoin, if they want growth in their portfolios, what kind of assets would you direct them to? Well,
I preach quality. I've preached quality since day one to all my clients. I like to understand the cash flow. I like to understand how the company's going to be profitable. I look at dividend growth. My dad always says, I'll buy Bitcoin when it pays a dividend. But realistically, it's something that I'd much rather own. If you're going to go growth, there's a whole bunch of sectors that exist that you can get growth in that are gambling, but the tech or healthcare, or there's a whole bunch of growth sectors that exist in the U.S. more than in Canada. But if we get back to Bitcoin just for a second and say, okay, so how many people are in right now? We want to measure how close we are to the end of this bubble. The bubble's going to burst. The bubble will burst. Mark my word, folks. And when it does burst, how much time do we have left? So I think there's still a little bit of time left because not everyone's in yet, Paul.
That is Rob Tetrault on Bitcoin. Up next, the day's top business headlines, including Hunter Harrison forced to take medical leave from his job as CEO of CSX. You're watching The Street here on BNN.